Okay, good afternoon all, and thanks for joining us. We'll get things underway. I'd just like to begin with an acknowledgement of country. We would like to recognise the diverse traditional lands on which we are each located. We acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands, and we pay our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, recognising the elders past, present and emerging. Okay, so I'll talking to you today about some of the research and the key issues we found from that research we conducted prior to putting together the Oxford Maths 7 to 10 Victorian Curriculum series. Then Paul McCallum will take you through a presentation of the digital platform that we refer to as Obook Pro, and talk about how that addresses some of those issues that were identified in the research. So what are the big issues in secondary maths classrooms today? So a wide range of ability levels in mathematics classrooms. A typical Year 7 classroom has up to an 8-year spread of an ability level in mathematics. An average of just 9% of students will reach or exceed the expected curriculum standard for their year level. The Victorian curriculum builds year on year. That is, Year 7 content must be completed before Year 8 content is tackled. One of the two biggest issues secondary teachers face in Australian maths classrooms is this wide range of ability. Second issue, students lacking prerequisite knowledge. So students lack the knowledge required to begin their mathematics work at each year level. Teachers lack the time and tools to successfully diagnose and address gaps in students' knowledge. Problem is exacerbated during the transition from primary school to secondary school, that is Year 7. When gaps in knowledge are not addressed, students risk falling further behind in their mathematics studies. Students who don't achieve the expected standards in mathematics may not experience success, potentially suffering from maths anxiety. So introducing Oxford's new series, Oxford Maths 7 to 10 Victorian Curriculum. I'll just hand over to Paul to talk through the introduction pages on the text.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for your time. I know how valuable teachers' time is, so appreciate you all attending. So I'm one of the education consultants, as John mentioned, and I will take you through the components of the book and also the Oxford digital Obook as well. And the reason we put this slide up is just to highlight a couple of things. We know we're going to probably bombard you with a lot of information today, and what we want to do is allow you to process that information, but also when you need to go back to it, know where to go so you can reference and understand why we've done certain things with Oxford Maths 7 to 10 and how the book is structured. So these landing pages are all found at the front of all of the student books, and it explains exactly what I'm going to talk through today, each of the components of not only the hard copy student book, but what's also found in the Obook digital as well. So with these slides, and I will go through this today, and you can go back to it when you get your free copy once because you've attended today as well. So you can come back to this, you can reference it, you can highlight and show your colleagues as well. The other thing is we're recording this webinar today as well, so you can come back and reference this also. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So that references that page references what's found in the student book, the hard copy, and this also references what's found in the Obook as well. And as I mentioned, you can come back and reference this. You can use the webinar recording, and I'm going to talk you through this all today as well. So without further ado, I will start sharing, and we can go into the Obook Live. So the good thing about Oxford Maths 7 to 10 is I can show you any year level, and the structure is the same in all of these year levels. So if you do teach numerous year levels and even different subject areas using Oxford humanities, maths, science, you'll see that the structure of the Obook is identical. It's just the content that changes and relevant to the subject area as well. So anyone that logs in to Oxford Maths and has access to the digital Obook, and that's something that is set up. What I'm showing you today is the teacher dashboard. Students that have access to a student book, if the school is book listing, will also have access to a student dashboard as well. And I'll show you how they talk to each other today, and the way that it's designed to be used, so to make your life easier and your students as well, in relation to not only teaching but assessment and reporting as well. So when we land on this page, we have the book that we can click on and open up as the digital Obook. The great thing about what you see in the digital Obook is exactly what you see in the student book, the hard copy as well. So there's no difference in translation there. So it's nice and easy to go and highlight a page in the digital. It's also what's found in the same as the hard copy student book as well. So we just click read, as you can see here, and next to that there's also a download PDF. So we understand that working digitally is great, but technology doesn't always, sometimes lets us down. So you have access to a PDF version of the Oxford Maths books as well. That's available here. With the Oxford Digital, we're also going to be following up with anyone that's attended today and offering schools free trials of Oxford Digital from term 3. So we'll be in touch with you, all the consultants, following today. But if it's something of interest, just make sure you let us know, because it's definitely something we want to highlight following today, so that you can see what the benefits are of using the digital Obook. So I'll click on the read, which will open up the digital Obook. And what I'll do is I'll talk through the structure of the book now and how everything is laid out. When you open up, you'll see the contents page is always referenced on the left, and I can close that at any time. I'll come back to that in a minute, just to talk through a few other things that are available in the student book as we progress through. Again, the structure of the book, when we're looking at the different chapters, we'll have an index page. Just going to zoom in a little so you can see a bit better. The index page, which breaks down what the topics are. So in relation to the chapters, it's up to you what order you want to teach those. But inside the chapter, it's very sort of linear the way that it's laid out. So I would suggest following that order when you're actually teaching. So we can see the order of the topics that are referenced in this chapter. Then what we have is these links to pretests and also interactive skill sheets as well. So the pretest is there, and we've got these little icons. So students will just press here and we do the pretest so that we can see what their knowledge is prior to attempting this chapter. And this is done digitally and it feeds back into the reporting. It also helps with the learning pathway as well, which I'll show in just a minute. It shows you what the curriculum links are as well, so very explicit, highlighting what we're actually going to be teaching here. And you'll see that with the learning intentions when we go into the topics as well. Any materials that are needed referenced here also. So I'll just move on to the next page. And again, we can see 1A, it's in relation to place value. The learning intentions here are referenced, so we know exactly what we're going to be teaching and also what our students should know by the end of learning this particular topic. There are interyear links referenced on the right here as well. And this goes back to those pain points that John was talking about earlier with differentiation and the spread of learning abilities that you find in a maths class, which you as teachers have to deal with, which can be tricky. So this is one of the things that really focused it in on with Oxford Maths is to have that differentiation incorporated into the program. So with that pretest, it will give your student a learning pathway, and it will reference and highlight what interyear links, whether students are below level or above level, that they can go and utilise to help them with their individual learning. What we have following on from that is some great resources to assist your students. They can come back, they can reference this, but you can utilize it as part of your teaching as well. So it's sort of that dot point theory. It's been designed to, with built-in glossaries, you can see with the highlighted words that are referenced in here, place value, digits. It's got concise dot points to make it easy to engage your students and for them to reference and utilize this knowledge for this particular topic, and when they go on to actually start learning, and the application of this knowledge as well. It's simple and easy to read. It'll build in sort of helpful diagrams, pictures as we progress through as well. So anything that's here is relevant to this particular topic that's being taught. The next stage is then worked examples, as you can see here. So again, you can utilize these for your teaching, and then your students can come back and reference this, and you can come back and use it as a reference tool with your students at any time as well. Something new that's been built in is the helpful hints. It's found after all of the worked examples. So this is, again, just a little summary of little helpful hints that students can use when starting to progress through and the application of this content that they've just been taught, talk through, seen worked examples, start answering those questions, which are found on the next pages. And the way these are structured as well relate to the proficiency strands. So you can see on the left here, the understanding and fluency. You may also have noticed that there's different shapes underneath the exercise 1A place value, and this relates back again to that individual learning pathway. And these are referenced in those individual learning pathways so that students know what to follow, and you can also guide them in what you want them to start focusing on, because some students might, again, be below level, need some prerequisite learning, brush up on some skills from prior years, and then start moving on to this new content that they're being taught. Others may have a really good foundation in it already. They don't need to learn and go through every single question that's in here. And it's the same with students that need to be extended and challenged as well. So they're all referenced up here. And again, these relate directly back to those learning pathways, which I'll show you very shortly. The proficiency strands are referenced on the left here, so you can see the understanding and fluency to begin with, and then we move through to that problem solving and reasoning. And each of the questions on each of the topics finishes off with a challenge as well. And then we've got some, again, some digital links down the bottom of each page as well that students can access to help with further application of knowledge and that content that you've just been taught and that they've just been using in this particular topic as well. Some other things that we see for each of the pages, and you'll see again in all of the year levels and all of the Oxford Maths books, is the book content. As we mentioned before, we can go to at any time. Any resources that are a part of each of the chapters and or topics, we just click that resources button down the bottom. So again, pretty self-explanatory and easy to navigate. So we can see here in this particular topic that we've got some interyear links. We've got teacher notes as well. So you'll see this when I go into the actual resources, that there's teacher notes and a learning plan for each of the chapters, but then teacher notes for each of the topics inside of those as well. There's topic quizzes for the end of each of the topics as well. And this again is interactive as it is with the pretest, and it feeds back into that reporting component inside the teacher dashboard, which I'll show you very shortly as well. And then any other resources that, you know, we've got worksheets here, we've got investigation worksheets as well that you may or may not use with your students. While I'm in here, I'll show you what you can do while you're with these resource pages. You can assign from here. So anything that's part of the topics, let's pick something we might want them to do. The topic quiz. So I click that, I click assign. It's up to me if I want to have an end date to this, but let's just say we'll do it at the end of the week. I click apply and then choose which class I want to send it to. And then I can decide if I want to send it to all students or just to a few. So when I click apply, it also gives me the option then to send an email notification. So it'll send it to their email. If I don't want to send it via their email, it will just, next time they open up their dashboard, there'll be a notification there. But I might want to include some email content to complete this chapter test prior to next lesson. So confirm and send, and that will then send off to my students. I've got these little notes option that you can utilize as well. And this is to, again, assist teachers in not having to copy and paste and then make up their own documents or email particular references found in the resource that you're using to students. So if, for example, I wanted to highlight addition properties, I can then just highlight that, click the little yellow and highlight what color I want to make it. So you've got 3 choices there. I can then make a little note as well. So, this is important. Please read. Save that. And that little note will then stay on this page. It'll also be accessible as well every time I click on the notes. And I can assign these notes also. So if I want to share, just like with the assigning before, with my class or just particular students, once again, something nice and simple. I can go into that note at any time. I can edit it. I can add things. I can delete as well. So this feeds back straight into your student's dashboard. And if there's something that particular that you want to highlight in the text, that you can then get your students to straight into their dashboard without, again, taking too much of your time. We know teachers are how valuable it is. So that little note section there is very valuable in saving you time. You know what you want to share with your students, and you just do it nice and quickly as well. You can bookmark pages so that you can come back to them at any time. The good thing about the Obook as well, if you finish on a page and then close it off, the next time you open it up, will come directly back to this as well. There's a dictionary here, so you can type in words, you can highlight words as well, and it will look it up in the dictionary for you. Sorry. Just clicking that. So that's there if you'd like. Any interyear links with the little squiggle down the bottom there as well, the zoom in and out as you've seen. And also on each page are these Desmos resources, which you may have seen before. But these are nice and useful for teachers and students. So we've got graphing calculator, we've got scientific calculator, 4-function calculator, and a geometry tool as well. So these can be moved around, so you can utilize them however you need, get them out of the way of the text. You can type into these, and you can use them however you see fit as well. All right. At any time, if you want to go back to the landing page, you can just click the home button. You can close off as well. I'm just going to go back into the read though for 1 second and show you the tests. Okay. Okay, so just going back to at the start of each chapter, those pre-tests, as I mentioned before, we just click on the little icon there and it will take us to this. Now the pre-test is exactly what it is. It's there to give you that formative that's a formative assessment to show you what your students do and don't know. The good thing about all the tests that are done digitally is they are corrected automatically. They're corrected straight away, so giving instant feedback to you and your students, so in real time, so that you can address anything that you need to straight away as well. Added to that is the individual learning plans, so that you can access those. I'm just going to go into. Right, so here's one that I've completed earlier. As a teacher, I can go in and complete this as many times as I like, but our students only get one opportunity, but you can reset the test if you'd like as well. So once I've completed the test, and my students as well will have these, again, automatic feedback about how they've gone, what you've got correct and incorrect, as you can see with the green and red. You can review the results as well to see where you went wrong. And teachers can access this and see exactly what the students have done, because sometimes it might be just a simple mistake. Teachers inside here can look at different classes as well to see how they've gone on this particular pretest as well. And it gives me a bit of information here also to see where my students are at. So I can see straight away all the students on the left here. I can see how they've gone with counting in multiples and ordering and comparing numbers. If we focus on Pro Demo 1 student, we can see what they've got correct and incorrect as well. The LPR column highlights their learning pathway report. And again, there is the color coding in relation to where they sit, in relation to what level they are at, in particular to this content. So student 1 is a B, and with the red there to show you that they're below level. The orange and the O is on level, and anyone above level is the green with the A. You can see on the right here, reset button, so I can click that, and I can also download those learning pathway reports from here as well. So if I click on that, I can see what my students' learning pathways are, and they look like this. So Pro Demo 1's learning pathway report, it tells me their prerequisite skills, their assessment level and what they need to learn, and then some of the recommended resources that they can use that are found in the Obook. So the skill sheets, the worksheets, to help bring them up to where they need to be. So again, relying on prior content knowledge to go and attack new content, students, this learning pathway report will assist automatically as soon as they finish that pretest and telling you as a teacher where your students are at and what they need to do. The learning pathway then is for your students. They can access this as well, so they can follow it and that progression, as can you. So if you wanted to stream your students, you can look at different learning pathways and see where they're at and how they fit with each other as well, if you'd like to do that. And then as you progress through, you can see with each of the topics inside the chapter, what your students will need to do, what questions we suggest. So like I mentioned before, the different shapes under each of the questions at the end of each of the topics. These questions here are referenced inside that learning pathway report as well. And any other resources that your students can tap into to build up their content knowledge. Okay. So again, if I hit the home button, it takes me back to that landing page. So what I've just shown you there with that pretest, it feeds back into the reporting, which I'll show you very shortly. And that's one way that you can look at it, is by going into that pretest yourself inside the dashboard with the Obook. But there's another way, again, I'll show you very shortly. There's a resources tab here. You can flick a little tab to show just the teacher resources. Your students will have the same tabs at the top of their page. So the home tab, the resources tab, and assigned work, but not the reporting, of course, because that just feeds back into the teachers. So I can see teacher only resources here. I can go down and use the filtering tool if I'm looking for something particular. Just remembering that anything that's part of the Obook topic or chapter, I can go and access those resources that way as well. So there's two ways of accessing. So yeah, I can clear off, I can look for particular resources that are found in here if I want to do that. So the Quizlet, which is part of Oxford Maths, which is fantastic. These are found at the end of each of the chapters as well, as part of another form of assessment and teaching and learning of content as well. So your students can access these. You can assign these resources as well if you want students to do them. So you can assign from the resources tab, which is nice and simple. So we just highlight, click assign, set the end dates again if we want, apply, who we want to send it to, and then an email if we want to send it that way as well. So anything assigned will then show up in the assigned work. And I just need to select my class. And I can see here anything that I have assigned to my students. I can see who's completed it and who hasn't. I can see the start and due dates I have for each of the students as well. And if I need to, I can delete those as well. So what I meant to mention earlier also is that when you land on the page, your landing page, there is a notifications tab at the bottom of this page if you scroll down. So anything that you've assigned, there'll be another little notification here to highlight that you've got assignments that are due, and you can go to your assigned work and see exactly what you need to. I'll come back to the reports in just a second because I will go back into the book and just highlight a few other resources that you'll find inside each of the books. So that structure of the chapter we've gone through, so you can see at the front of each chapter what's going to be taught in each of the topics. We've got the pretest as part of each chapter to assess our students' understanding and skills, and then the learning pathway report is developed from there. We've got inside each of the topics, we've got the dot point theory that's referenced here to make it accessible for all students and nice and simple for them to access. The same with the worked examples, which they then apply that knowledge and content learning inside these questions that are found in the book. But there's also those topic quizzes that are in here as well that are interactive and feed back into that reporting also. So I can see where my students gone with a pretest. I can then see where they've gone with the topic quiz at the end of each of the topics as well. So one thing you've probably noticed is it doesn't open up new tabs as I progress through and open up these links. It just keeps it inside the Obook as well, which is just, it's nice and easy to navigate. If we go back to the book content, in the middle of each of the chapters, we have checkpoints as well. So these checkpoints are questions that relate to that content that's been taught so far in the chapter. And it's another way of touching base. So you've got the topic quizzes at the end of each of the topics. So you can see where your students are going. Again, it'll feed back into that reporting, and you can use that as that formative assessment to make sure your students are on track and attend to anything that needs to be. And it's the same with this checkpoint that's here as well. And this can also be done interactively and digitally, so it feeds back into that reporting component as well. And you can see the little icon up the top here. So if I click on that, it'll take me through. And again, this is where my students can reference this. And again, I can assign these to my students when and where I need to as well. Again, going back to the content, contents page, the review, as we mentioned before. So you've got two options. You can use the review that's inside the student book. All of the answers are found at the back of the student book. So you've got a hard copy option. You've then got that digital option as well, which again will feed back. It is useful in that, as I mentioned before, it will self-correct, it will give instant feedback, and it will feed back to your dashboard and into your reporting component as well. So lots of ways that you can access the assessment components of Oxford Maths, whether it's hard copy options or utilising the digital options that feed back into that reporting component. So that's how each of the chapters are structured as well. So if we go through, you'll see that's the same for all of the chapters. At the end of each semester, there's a semester review as well. So this is here for you to utilise if you'd like. And that will again touch on all of the components that have been taught through those first 2 terms. And there's a semester review at the end of each year as well. Another new component that's been built in is the spreads that have been built in with the Australian Maths Trust, you can see here. So these are challenges that are being developed for all ability levels. They do get very challenging though, but these are something, again, you can tap into with your students using the Oxford Maths as well. As we keep going down the content page, you can see the semester 2 review, more Australian Maths Trust spreads that are referenced here. There's also NAPLAN practice in year 7 and 9, I believe. So again, something for you to utilise with your students, especially if they're going to be attempting NAPLAN that year. Something that's been built into all Oxford Maths, Humanities, Science year 7 to 10 books is these new STEAM spreads as well. The good thing about them is they're the same in all of those curriculum areas, and it's something where you can do that cross-curricular component with other subject areas in your school as well. So there's 2 different projects that are part of each book and each year level, going through from 7 to 10. So that's something that you can tap into and utilise as part of Oxford Maths 7 to 10 as well. So answers, as we mentioned before, all referenced here, glossary at the back of the book, and then index and acknowledgements as well. So just as you see in the hard copy book, you find in this digital component as part of the Obook Pro as well. Okay, so when we come in, we land here, we click read, we go into all that the Obook Pro, access all of those resources and the way that the book is structured to teach our students. The resources that we've mentioned, all referenced here. We can use the filter system to find those if we need to look for something in particular. Can show only teacher resources as well, and I can assign resources from here too. We'll go to our students dashboard. Any of that assigned work is all referenced here, and any notification of something that's due to be completed will come up when I log into that landing page as well. That's right, I can see exactly what I've assigned here. It's by clicking that down and up arrow. And then we get to the reporting component. So I'll just go in here because I've got some data in here. It's a different chapter. So we've got 3 different types of reporting. We can see the assessment report, which relates directly to those pretests, the topic quizzes, the checkpoints, and those end of chapter quizzes as well. So if I click on that and select my class, I can have a very good overview of exactly what my students, where they sit. And it breaks down even further. So I can see straight away in number and algebra here in chapter 1, what my students done with their pre and post test. Please ignore the numbers in here because it was just put together to show it's not real student data, thank goodness. But I've got a few things that I can do here as well. I can see who is below level by clicking on the little box on the left, and that again highlights with the red. I can see who's on level with the orange, and the same with the above level with the green. So again, nice quick snap. snapshot of where my students are at. If I click on the actual chapter, I can then see the breakdown and see that progression as it moves through as well. So I can see again with the below, on level and above level as well. I can see what they've done in their pre-test. I can click into that. I can then get a summary and see exactly what's happened. Again, I can reset if I need to. It's the same with the quizzes for each of the topics. It's the same with the checkpoints and also with that post-test as well. So it's all here for me, click of a button. I can find individual students as well. So it might be something where you want to talk to your students and you say, okay, come and see me, Pro Book 1, and let's have a look at how you're going, what you might need to work on. By looking at their results. The learning pathway report is here as well. So again, your students can access this in their dashboard. You always have access to it as a teacher as well. So by just going into their pre-test, we can have a look at their learning pathway. We can come back to that at any time. And hopefully that is helping them progress. And that's what we're tracking with these reporting components as well. The next part is the curriculum report. So I like this because it reports exactly what the curriculum is, the Victorian curriculum is asking you to, with those content descriptors, assess your students against. So I'm just going to go to all students. So that first one is the assessment report. This second tab, the curriculum report, gives me a good snapshot of where my student sits in relation to those content descriptors found in the Victorian Maths curriculum. So I can see here again with the green and red, the percentages of correct and incorrect in relation to the assessments that students have gone through with those end of chapter quizzes. And then it breaks down even further into those content descriptors, so I can see, they might have an overall, 36%, but we can see here in relation to these particular content descriptors that this student is struggling and not getting anything correct, where they might be really excelling in other components. So this is all here for me. And again, I can come in and utilize it. It's a good, again, another way of seeing where your students are tracking in relation to the curriculum. And it's, again, I think another good component of that formative assessment to see what your students are getting and what they're not, so that you can go and attend to it sooner rather than later. And we're not just getting to it when we're reporting against the curriculum in that half year and end of year as well. And our last but not least is the skills report. So this is again feeding back from the pre-test that we mentioned earlier. So you can go into, as I've shown you, the actual pre-test inside the Obook, but you can also come to the reporting component here, click on skills report, and see exactly where your students are at in relation to these pre-tests as well. So again, a nice snapshot. I can see how they've gone. I can see what it relates to and what they're answering in each of these as well. If I want, I can highlight individual students. So it might be, okay, you want to talk to them individually, come up, let's have a look at your results. Okay, let's have a look at your learning pathway. And you can download that again, open up the PDF, and then talk through it with your student of, okay, well, this is what we need you to do. And then happily get them progressing through. And then once you're seeing that feedback into the report, that they're tracking where they need to be. And again, if they're not, then you can attend to that straight away as well. So that's plenty of talking from me. That is pretty much everything that's in the Obook. As I mentioned before, the Obook's structure across maths, science, and humanities is identical. It's really just the content that changes, and some of the resources as well and how they're applied in there. But hopefully that's given you a better overview of what is available in here to help teach your students, help assess your students, and yeah, make your teaching even better in the classroom as well. I will hand you back to John now.
Very good, Paul. Thanks for a great demonstration there of the Obook Pro. I think you'd agree it really does address some of those issues of differentiated learning, but also there's some really fantastic reporting capability there as well. So I'll just bear with me one moment. I'll just give you a look at the pricing for Oxford Maths. So the student book plus Obook Pro, the print and digital, is $72.95. The student Obook Pro, which is digital only, $44.95. And the teacher Obook Pro is $299.95. Now, of course, if you, as a school, if you book list Oxford Maths, then that teacher Obook Pro is complimentary. Also worth mentioning that the Obook Pro, the student Obook Pro digital license period is for 1 year, and then digital reactivation of fees apply for the second year. Take the opportunity to introduce the team. We've got Alicia, who's been manning the questions admirably, looking after South, Caitlin looking after the West, David Griffiths, who's looking after the South and East, Paul looking after the North and the rest of the East. There were some questions in the chat which have been addressed. If you do have any more subsequently, please feel free to email your sales consultant or myself, and we will get back to you. I suppose the next steps, you'll be sent an email containing a link to request your PD certificate, and also we'll be in touch with you just to talk about a complimentary text and also to discuss a free digital trial. So look, all that remains is to thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate that you are busy, and thank you very much for attending today. All the best.